This is the second in a series of videos teaching you exactly how to connect and record your keyboard on your computer, whether you want to make a MIDI connection or an audio connection or both. And in this one, we're going to look at the outputs that you might have on the back of your keyboard. So let's start by looking at the back of my piano, which is a Korg LP350. And this is what I've got. I've got a standard MIDI in and MIDI out port that transmit the MIDI data to and from my computer, and I've also got a line out port where I can record the sound of the keyboard from. And what I do is I transmit the MIDI data via MIDI cables, which are actually part of a USB MIDI interface, and then I use an 1/8 of an inch mini jack cable to record the audio via a audio cable. So that's my connections. Now it could be that you've got a different kind of keyboard, so I'm looking at something different here. This is a Yamaha P255 and you might have something that looks a bit more like this. So on this one, the audio output is actually 2 1/4-inch outputs like this, and you would connect these by having 2 mono 1/4-inch cables connected to the left and right. It's labelled AUX out, so your keyboard might be labelled AUX out, line out, audio out. And as I said before, you can connect to the left and right with 2 1/4-inch TS cables, or because this port here is labelled L/L+R, you could use 1 1/4-inch TRS stereo cable. So this is what they look like, the difference. 2 mono cables look like this with tip sleeve, and you would connect left and right, 1 to each, or 1 stereo cable with tip ring sleeve from just the left hand side. Then also on the back of this keyboard, you've got those standard MIDI ports, MIDI in and out, just like on the back of mine, and you've also got USB to host, and this is MIDI, not audio data that is transmitted from here. Now that USB port causes a lot of confusion, and a lot of people write to me and say, I've connected the USB port from my keyboard and now I can't record the sound. Well, yes, you can easily connect your keyboard to your computer with a standard USB printer lead, but you are making a MIDI connection with that USB lead in this case. You're not going to record the sound. So this is good if you've got no specialist equipment and you just want to hook your keyboard up. You can do that very easily. But the only way to record the sound on a keyboard like this is to connect these 2 audio outputs here. To record the sound, you need to do that. This part here, you've got your MIDI ports and your USB port, which is a different kind of way of doing the MIDI. And you've got your audio ports, which transmit the sound. Now, it could be that you don't have a range of audio outputs like that. You may just have standard MIDI ports, or you may just have a USB port. But the other thing that you've got is a headphone output. And maybe that's the only way you can get the sound out of your keyboard if you want to record it, and you still can. So you can use that headphone socket, but there's a thing that you need to be aware of, and that is if you put a cable into your headphone socket, you're going to silence the keyboard, because normally when you put headphones in, it's so that you can play it without disturbing anyone else. So you will probably need to purchase a headphone splitter if you want to record the sound of your keyboard and plug a set of headphones in so you can hear yourself playing at the same time, because there's nothing worse than trying to play and not be able to hear it. The exception to that is if you follow the video course, you'll find that we will talk about audio interfaces that will have direct monitoring, and in that case you won't need this splitter because you'll be able to hear it through your interface, but that's a little bit further down the line. So if you have this kind of keyboard where you've only got a headphone socket, you can connect that up to record the sound, and then hopefully you'll be able to make a MIDI connection from either a USB port or standard MIDI ports to do the MIDI recording. Now sometimes you can transmit song information from the keyboard via that USB port. So if you've got a Casio or a Yamaha, they tend to let you do this, but still you're not recording the sound of your keyboard, you're just recording data, and you can manipulate the songs on your computer and store them and send them back to the keyboard, but to record the sound you will need to connect up those audio ports. Now another thing to note is that some pianos and keyboards have got a USB output directly like this, where you can plug a flash drive in and record the sound of your keyboard directly on that. And if that's the case, you don't need any cables to record your keyboard on your computer. You just record them onto the USB stick and then transfer the file. What you need to do is go and make a note of all the connections from your keyboard so that you're ready for the next video in this series, where we'll look at how you actually make the connection from your keyboard to your computer to either record the sound of it or make a MIDI connection. And if meanwhile you want to know a bit more about home studio recording and how you can use your computer to learn and play and create, then do visit my blog. The Music Repo blog has got lots of information and guides and tips and tricks and more information about recording your keyboard as well. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to make sure that you get all the videos in the series so that you can become an expert on putting your keyboard at the heart of your home studio.